What's going on, guys? Big welcome to you all to our channel. We are Team Crushing the Meta. Today you're here with T-Boy and we are back with a Bruce deck profile. Today we'll talk about the grade 4 Bruce and I will tell you how the deck looked like during the games that I played against Sparkles, and then showing you the deck as it looks right now. And yeah, so some stuff to explain. But first, if you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe, like the video, and let us know in the comment section below which Bruce build you play and why. Because when it comes to Bruce, there are two different directions that you could take. One is the grade 4 Bruce and the other one is the grade 3 Bruce. If we talk about the grade 4 Bruce, in that choice you have three options. You have the option to go full out Bruce, with the other order being having the ability to give your Vanguard a crit, so charging more, it's more explosive, playing more Bryans, focusing more on the Vanguard, and attacking with a high attack Vanguard with like 3 or 4 crits. That build is good, but I would not say it's a build that I would rather play against my friends, because it's not much fun. You attack, and if your opponent has a PG or 2 PGs, they could stop it. If not, they will basically lose the game. Well, the other build that you could also play is more of a, I would say a balanced build, where you also play the grade 1, the Colon, I think its card is called. The good thing about the card is that you also get guard restrict on your rear guards, which makes the deck also very, very interesting and good, which you could combine very well with cards like Eden, especially on the second attack where he gets the crit. Then you have this build. This is more of the hybrid build between the grade 3 Bruce and the grade 4 Bruce. Although you play the grade 4 Bruce and you don't play any of the grade 3s, the deck still functions almost the same way as having the grade 3 Bruce, which is interesting. Alright, first of all, how did the deck change after the games that I played against Sparkles in the last few weeks that I've been testing this deck even more? The first thing that you see is I don't play any draws anymore. So I took the draws out because originally I played 3 draws. I took them out because I find myself taking out, and I find myself not really using those draws. They were unnecessary, although they did give you an extra card, but the crit was just more effective in lots of games that I have my draw. So that's the reason why I like to play the crits. So that's the first change. The second change is I normally played this crit, but now I play her more. And because I play now a ratio of 7 crits, even 8 if you count him, it doesn't really make a big of a difference between which one you play more. But if you play draws, I would rather play her than him. First of all, the art. Second of all, the 5k. It's just more... in this deck, it's more effective to have the 5k, especially because most of the time she will be boosting the Marjorie. But there are moments where he will be more effective if he could give you the last soul, because sometimes you just need 1 extra soul for your Bruce to restand, and that's when this boy will be more effective. But again, if you play the 7 crits, you could play which one you like a copy of more. Alright, the other change that we did in the deck is taking out the Ariana heal and putting her in. So this doesn't really make a difference, it's just an art preference, but I just love the new art, and I love the fact that she doesn't have any shield, which is good, because sometimes it does open up discussions and I like that. It's just fun to mess with your opponents. But we also have the new heals. So I already have 4 copies of her, and I could exchange this heal with her. She's more effective, especially in the current format, as you have lots of restanding units, and this could be a very good shield value. But the downside to her is that she's only at 10k in the early game, which sometimes is just bad, and she's also 4k. So that's also something that I didn't really like that much. But again, it depends on the format that you're playing. I think for now, I will just play her because it's just more stable and I like her. But again, in the future, that could change. Talking about the grade 1s, they didn't change. Talking about the overtrigger, we'll go back. First, let's talk about the changes. Everything else stayed the same except the order. I normally played only 3 copies of Hellblast, and I played 2 copies of Helheim. Helheim, in my opinion, is very good. It does help you to get the counter charge, especially for next turn, as if your opponent leaves you with 0 counterblasts face up, so you could not even use his skill, you could choose to use this and get his ability, but most of the time your opponent will give you only 1 counterblast, and if that happens, then you could not use the combination of these two. And it's very important to use the combination of these two, because Bruce by himself is just not good enough or not effective enough. But if you combine Bruce with Hellblast and Brian, then you have a very strong turn. That's why people play the other order, because if you choose to play the deck differently, if you choose to focus a little bit more on the other order, which is good as well, but if you choose to go that route, then you have to understand that you will be soul charging a lot, and that could mean you decking out, and that would mean you'll go closer to the other build where you had the 4 Bryans in the other order. But for me, this works the best. I do like it. I didn't find myself needing the extra soul charge, as in I have Derek and I have Mayuri and I have Dogo and I have some crits, and I also have Lenard. So I do have enough soul chargers. I want to play the deck as balanced and hybrid as I can, and that's why I play it in this way. Okay, so those are all the changes. Now let's talk a little bit about the choices and the decks. So of course, for Bruce, there's nothing to explain about that. You could add a grade 3 Bruce to the deck if you want to for a Persona ride, and it acts as an extra copy of a Bruce in the deck, which would work. I do see myself taking this out and adding just an extra random Bruce in the deck. That's good as well. But for now, for this deck, for the choice of the overtrigger, you just want to focus more on the grade 4 Bruce. And I didn't really find many games where I couldn't ride into him right away. There were some, but not much. Mayuri at 4, nothing to explain. The card is really good, especially in this build, because you don't soul charge a lot, so she's very effective. Brian at 3, I think that's the perfect ratio for this deck. There is no reason to add the 4th one, and definitely 2 is not enough. You need at least 3. Grade 2s. These are the cards that I did the most change in. I added this boy at 2, then at 3, and then I took him out. I did a very good comparison between him and Lenard, but in my playstyle, Lenard is very effective. As you have seen in the Friends match that I played against Sparkles, Lenard was one of the MVPs of the deck. Then you have the comparison between these two. I would say in this build, Eden is better, especially with this much crits. Eden is better because he's just more effective, especially in the late game. But in the early game as well, if you don't have the final rush, you still have the hit ability. Him attacking a rearguard is very effective because your opponent could not just take the damage. They would have to let the rearguard go if they don't have a defensive hand, or they're just put in a situation where they will show you what they have in their hand the way they guard. If they let the attack go through, then they basically lose 2 rearguards because he attacks a rearguard, killing it, and him hitting counterblasting while retiring something else is also very effective depending on what you retire. So I kept the Edens in. And then we came to the perfect comparison, which is Lyle with Derek. Derek and Lyle, 2 very, very, very good cards, and 2 cards that do almost the same thing. So on place, counterblast 1, and then you get the extra 5k. If you're in final rush, you also get to soul charge 2, choose one of your cards from your soul, call it to an open rearguard. Alright, then we have Derek. The first ability, if you're in final rush, he gets the 5k anyway. That's a plus thing. Then the act ability to counterblast 1 and to put a rearguard into the soul. He could also put himself, and then you could call and check and retire and do stuff. So, which one is better? Derek gives you better field control, especially if you play Lenard. The combination is really, really good and very, very strong. But Derek also sometimes don't call you the right cards to the field. But in the most situations he does. If you have a very offensive hand, he will call you triggers, which is okay because you will put them into the soul anyway. You could also still choose to put them into the soul with his ability, so he becomes just an retirement and soul charger, and you just maybe call one thing to the field. But there will be moments where you have all of your cards, the good cards in your soul, and then you would rather have him. So I would say between these two, they're equal depending on the format that you play in and depending on your playstyle. I like Derek because Derek is more flexible. He retires, he gives you field control. It's just a very, very, very strong card. And if you think about it and you just read him by his own, then you would be like, this card is really OP. It's very overpowered. But it's actually not. As I explained when the card came out, I said people were like going crazy and thought like Bruce will become tier 0 right away because of just him. But he did not become tier 0 just like that, and definitely not because of him. Reasons is that this card has also some bad design into it, which makes it good, which makes it more balanced. So for me, the comparison between the two, first thing, Derek always has the 5k. He does not. He only gained the 5k because of the Count Blast. Derek is an act ability and you could use it later on, even if you put him early on the field to rush if you feel like. He is an on-place ability, you use him or you not use him. The good thing about this card is that it soul charges 2 and it calls from soul, which means that you could call stuff that you have put into your soul, which is good. Dogos, Marie's, Brian's, all of that you could call. You know what you're calling, even without the soul charging 2. With Derek, you just have to see and hopefully have good cards in your what you check on top. But again, as I said, the combination between the two is good. The good thing about Derek is, of course, he gives you the field control that he does not, even in the early game. Sometimes you just count +1, put him into the soul, and retire something from your opponent, a starter or whatever, something that they need, something behind their Vanguard, and you just go 1 for 1. It's actually not good of a play, but sometimes it's effective if you do it in the right timing against the right deck. So all of that makes Derek, in my opinion, a little bit better than the other greats. Alright. The Lenard, as I said, MVP in some games, very, very effective against decks like Magnolia, against decks that need field present, let's say. And being able to restand him and attack with him a second time, you could just take out both columns, or just take out a column and then attack into the Vanguard and the back row. The only thing that you need to keep in mind is that if he hits, you have to soul charge. And because sometimes in the late game you don't want to soul charge because of decking out, you need to be very smart about when to call him and when not. So yeah, think about that. Also, Lenard is interesting as his skill doesn't fully work with Bruce. Lenard's skill is, if you're in Final Rush, this unit gets an extra 5k. Okay? Then, when this unit attacks or would attack, it battles all of your opponent units in the column. So that's the first part of the ability. If you're in Final Rush, he gets to attack a whole column and he gets the 5k. Then we have the second ability. When this unit attack hits, you soul charge 1. Anyway, then if your Vanguard is the grade 3 Bruce, then you get to call something to an open record circle. That's very, 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 very important. First, it's important to know that he soul charges whenever he hits, and that's not a choice that you could make. Second, he only calls when you have the grade 3 Bruce. But third and fourth are the most important things. Him getting the 5k and him getting to attack a column, he only needs Final Rush for that, and it doesn't matter which Bruce you have. That's the reason why you play him in this deck. Him being able to take out a column, him being able to soul charge could be effective. Alright, the grade 1s, 4 PGs, very self-explanatory, I would say. And then the 2 doggos are very important in this deck, as you could have a very strong attack as a Vanguard, then you could choose to put him into your soul to just give like your Bruce an extra power, or your Eden extra power, as he will attack twice. You could do some crazy shenanigans with Doggo. I like him a lot. And then the Great Zero lineup, we'll already explain that. There is one thing that I could change about it, is adding the extra fronts. Of course, we've already talked about the heals, but I could add an extra front. The front is definitely very good in the late game. Also, I like the 2 arts together, so I think it's fun to have a sister in the deck. But I like the crits more, because as I said at the start of the video, the crits are very effective in this deck, especially with a restanding Vanguard, with restanding Regards that have the crit to them. Pinning your opponent at 4 damage is just devastating for them, because they could not take his attack because of Brian, because of drive checks, because of overtrigger. They could not take his attack because he has the crit and he has the retirement power, and they could not take the other attack that will get the crit as well. So yeah, your opponents would have to be very smart the way they guard and which attack they let through. And that's basically it for the deck. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. I hope that you guys learned something from it. If you have any questions, don't be shy. Let us know in the comment section below. Or as some people also do, they just contact me on Facebook and ask me personally. I would also don't mind. Don't ask me too much on Discord, as I don't really use Discord that much. I only use Discord for special calls when I need to do an interview with someone, or I will be getting interviewed, but most of the time I will not be on Discord. So it's pretty much up to you guys, and if you want to talk on Discord, let me first know in the comments, or let me know during Messenger, Facebook, and I will be able to contact you. I also have been using Instagram more lately, so that's also easier to contact me there. But as I said, Facebook is the easiest way, or just put a comment in the comment section below. Then of course we will answer very, very, very fast. For the right line, we didn't maybe talk about that. I have all the starters in SP, so I do switch between the starter and the other, depending on which starter new is, which one I like with the deck. I play the Greedon starter most of the time, and now I play this boy because, yeah, I just love the art. He reminds me a little bit of Charlotte, and I don't really have much Dark Irregular units in the deck. Some people would argue that this is a Dark Irregular unit, but it's more of a combination between a little bit of Gears, lots of Spike, and some Pale Moon, and now I also have a Dark Irregular unit in the deck, so I do like that. Alright guys, again, that will be it. Thanks for watching, thank you for tuning in our channel, and we'll hope to see you in the next video. So till next time.